Welcome back, book nerds. I thought that I would do a book haul for you today. So this is going to cover like Q4 of 2025. So books that I purchased in October, November, and books that were gifted to me for Christmas. Let's just get into it. I will probably go through these by genre, and I have quite a few to get through. So let's just get started. Okay, I'm going to start off with The Trail, a novel. And this is by Ethan Galgogli. Illustrations by Jeremy Ashcroft. This is a transformative journey on the John Muir Trail. In the wake of his father's death and recently fired from his job, Gil agrees to accompany his father's best friend Sid on a month-long hike on the John Muir Trail. There's just one problem. Gil hates camping and is woefully unprepared for the rigors of the 200-mile journey. Moreover, he learns Sid may not survive the hike. Set authentically in the High Sierra, infused with insightful accounts of history and ecology, the trail illustrates how wilderness can serve as our greatest guide. What really drew me to this is since we moved to Montana, I mean, obviously I've always been a hiker and always loved hiking, but since we've moved here, that whole world, that trail hiking and camping has really just expanded for me. I really thought that this would speak to me and that it would really, really be a great read. This says that it was a finalist in the Indie Book Awards. So that's interesting. The next stack that I'm going to go through is fantasy, and there are 3 of these. The first one is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I believe this is about vampires. I recently, or within the past few years, read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I believe is also by V.E. Schwab. I will have to fact check myself there. But this is a story about hunger. 1532, Santiago de la Calzada. A young girl grows up wild and wily. Her beauty is only outmatched by her dreams of escape. But Maria knows she can only ever be a prize or a pawn in the games played by men. When a luring stranger offers an alternate path, Maria makes a desperate choice. She vows to have no regrets. This is a story about love. 1827, London. A young woman lives an idyllic but cloistered life on her family's estate until a moment of forbidden intimacy sees her shipped off to London. Charlotte's tender heart and the seemingly impossible wishes are swept away by an invitation from a beautiful widow. But the price of freedom is higher than she could have imagined. This is a story about rage. 2019, Boston. College was supposed to be her chance to be someone new. That is why Alice moved halfway across the world, leaving her old life behind. But after an out-of-character, one-night stand leaves her questioning her past, her present, and her future, Alice throws herself into the hunt for answers and revenge. I've heard mixed reviews about this. I don't know, I'm always of the mind that I'll make up my own opinion, and so we shall see. The next book is one that has been all the rage and also seems to be another very polarizing book that people either love it so much or don't love it and think that it is mislabeled in the wrong genre and that it's misleading, and that is Alchemized by St. Liu. I have her Manacle series, which I did start back when I was in my slump, and I only got like a chapter or 2 into it and put it aside. Once a promising alchemist, Helena Marino is now a prisoner of war and of her own mind. Her resistance, friends, and allies have been brutally murdered, her abilities suppressed, and the world she knew destroyed. In the aftermath of a long war, Palladia's new ruling class of corrupt guild families and depraved necromancers, who vile undead creatures helped bring about their victory, holds Helena captive. According to resistance records, she was a healer of little importance within their ranks, but Helena has inexplicable memory loss of the months leading up to her capture, making her enemies wonder, is she truly as insignificant as she appears, or are her lost memories hiding some vital piece of the resistance final gambit? To uncover the memories buried deep within her mind, Helena is sent to the High Reeve, one of the most powerful and ruthless necromancers in this new world. Trapped on his crumbling estate, she fights to protect her lost history and to preserve the last remaining shreds of her former self. It's just the beginning. For her prison and captor have secrets of their own. Secrets Helena must unearth, whatever the cost. Sounds really good to me. I've heard that it is a bit dark and a bit sad. I love a good book that evokes a lot of emotion and it has magic, and so that sounds right up my alley. And then I have I, Medusa by Anya Gray. Meddy has spent her whole life as a footnote in someone else's history, out of place next to her beautiful immortal sisters and her parents, both gods, albeit minor ones. She dreams of leaving her family's island for a life of adventure, so when she catches the eye of the goddess Athena, who invites her to train as an esteemed priestess in her temple, Meddy leaps at the chance to see the world beyond her home. In the colorful market streets of Athens, the clandestine members of the temple, Meddy flourishes in her role as Athena's favored acolyte, getting her first taste of purpose and power. But when she's noticed by another Olympian, Poseidon, the course of Melody's promising future is suddenly and irrevocably altered. When her locks are transformed into snakes as punishment for a crime she did not commit, Medusa must embrace a new identity, not as a victim, but as a vigilante, and with it, the chance to write her own story as mortal, martyr, and myth. I've read a few of these retellings, Greek god type retellings, and I really enjoyed them. I don't know that I've read one by Anya Gray in particular, but this one sounds really good. I've always loved Medusa in, what was that movie called? Oh Lord. I don't know, I can't think of it, but it's one of those old classic. The next genre is sci-fi. I surprisingly only have 2 books in this category, one of which is Orbital, a novel by Samantha Harvey. This was the Booker Prize winner of 2024. This is a rather small book too. It's only like just over 200 pages. A slender novel of epic power named a Best Book of the Year by Oprah Daily and The Guardian. Orbital deftly snapshots one day in the lives of 6 women and men traveling through space, selected for one of the last space station missions of its kind. Before the program is dismantled, these astronauts and cosmonauts from America, Russia, Italy, Britain, and Japan have left their lives behind to travel at a speed of over 17,000 miles an hour as the Earth reels below. Profound and contemplative, Orbital is a moving elegy to our environment and planet. I feel like, generally speaking, the Booker Prize winners fall into this category where they are talking about climate change or, some kind of relevant, pivotal topic in the world today. So I'm sure that that's what this is going to touch on. I've heard, again, mixed reviews, so we'll see. The next one is called The Afterlife Project by Tim Weed. This one is about, with humanity facing imminent extinction, Centauri Project scientists used technology originally designed for interstellar travel to send a test subject 10 millennia into Earth's future. Marooned in an uninhabited wilderness, microbiologist Nicholas Hinman searches for evidence of remnant populations. He has a protocol to follow and is determined to do so to the bitter end, though he knows he's probably searching in vain, stranded on an empty planet silently orbiting the sun. Meanwhile, back in 2068 AD, a devastating hyper-pandemic has quelled all talk of interstellar travel and thrown the future of humanity into grave doubt. For surviving members of the Centauri team, board a vintage solar-powered sailing yacht for a harrowing journey in search of a second test subject. Their destination is a small volcanic island north of Sicily, rumored to harbor the rarest of creatures, a woman capable of getting pregnant, thereby ensuring this generation of Homo sapiens isn't the last. But first they must take it halfway across the post-apocalyptic globe, risking heat waves, oceanic megastorms, murderous gangs, deranged cult leaders, a volcanic eruption, and the dangerous microbes that continue to circulate through the planet's atmosphere. So again, another climate change type of dystopian book, it sounds like, with a touch of sci-fi, maybe. The next genre that we're talking here is going to be horror, and as you may have seen, I have quite a few to talk about. So these first few I actually bought from Broken Binding when they were having their kind of Halloween horror sale. So the first one is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. This is about a group of young guerrilla filmmakers spending 4 weeks making horror movie, a notorious, disturbing art house horror film. The weird part, only 3 of the film's scenes were ever released to the public. Steeped in mystery and tragedy, the film has taken on mythic renown. Decades later, a big-budget reboot is in the works, and Hollywood turns to the only surviving cast member, the man who played the thin kid, the masked teen at the center of it all. He remembers all too well the secrets buried within the original screenplay, the bizarre events of the filming, and the crossed lines on set. Caught in a nightmare of masks and appearances, Hollywood personalities, and fan conventions, the thin kid spins a tale of past and present, scripts and reality, and what the camera lets us see, but at what cost do we revisit our demons? Then I have Coffin Moon by Keith Rossum. I believe this is a vampire book. And of course, broken binding. It's the winter of 1975 in Portland, Oregon. It is all sleet and neon. Dwayne Miner is back home after a tour in Vietnam, a bartender just trying to stay sober, save his marriage with his wife, Heidi, and connect with his 13-year-old niece, Julia, now that he's responsible for raising her. Things aren't easy, but Miner is scraping by. Then a vampire walks into his bar and ruins his life. When Miner crosses John Varley, a killer who sleeps during the day beneath loose drifts of earth and grows teeth in the light of the moon, Varley brutally retaliates by murdering Heidi, leaving Miner broken with guilt and Julia filled with rage. What's left of their splintered family is united by only one desire: vengeance. So begins a furious, frenzied pursuit across the Pacific Northwest and beyond, from grimy alleyways to desolate highways to snow-lashed plains. Miner and Julia are thrust into the dark orbit of undead children, silver bullet casters, and the bevy of broken men transfixed by Varley's ferocity. Everyone is out for blood. I've heard really good reviews about this one. Then I bought The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. I have read, I think, one other book by Christina Henry, and I think she's pretty good. I really like the painted edges. A woman must confront the evil that has been terrorizing her street since she was a child in this gripping haunted house novel. Ordinary street in Chicago, an abandoned house where once upon a time terrible things happened. The children who live in this block are told by their parents to stay away from that house. But of course, children don't listen. Children think it's fun to be scared, to dare each other to go inside. Jessie Campanelli did what many older sisters do and dared her little brother Paul. But unlike all the other kids who went inside that abandoned house, Paul didn't return. His 2 friends, Jake and Richie, said that the house ate Paul. Of course, adults didn't believe that. Adults never believe what kids say. They thought someone kidnapped Paul or otherwise hurt him. They thought Paul had disappeared in a way that was ordinary, explainable. The disappearance of her little brother broke Jessie's family apart in ways that could never be repaired. Jessie grew up, had a child of her own, and kept living on the same street where the house that ate her brother sat, crouching and waiting. And darkness seemed to spread out from that house, a darkness that was alive and hungry. This actually sounds really good. Then we have Burnt Sparrow by Eric LaRocca. We are always tender with our dead. I've actually never read anything by Eric LaRocca. The lives of those residing in the isolated town of Burnt Sparrow, New Hampshire, are forever altered after 3 faceless entities arrive on Christmas morning to perform a brutal act of violence, a senseless tragedy that can never be undone. While the townspeople grieve their losses and grapple with the aftermath of the attack, a young teenage boy named Rupert Cromwell is forced to confront the painful realities of his family situation. Once relationships become intertwined and more carnage ensues, a result of the massacre, the town residents quickly learn that true retribution is futile, cruelty is earned, and certain thresholds must never be crossed, no matter what. This is the last one from that haul. This is obviously a very popular book at the moment, King's Sorrow by Joe Hill. I've heard people say that this is going to be his magnum opus, that it is highly enjoyable, highly readable, and falls under several genres, one of which being fantasy, one of which being horror. From my understanding, instead of reading the blurb, it is about a group of kids who uncover a dragon, and by awakening him, they agree to sacrifice one person each year. It goes on, all about their coming of age and having to deal with this dragon and the repercussions, and I've heard that it's just phenomenal. So I can't wait to get to this chunky book. It's a big one. I've heard that it is unputdownable. My pile is probably gonna fall. This next one I bought while we were in Bozeman, and we went into this little local bookstore. There's actually another book that I bought at the same time, which I forgot to bring in here. I'm just going to talk quickly about it. It is by a local Montana author, and the book takes place in Montana, and it is called Baited. I don't remember the name. I will put a picture of it or give you the information here. And I believe it is a mystery thriller book. It takes place in Glacier National Park. I think there's like a death or missing people. This is one that I had started. I read like maybe a chapter or two of it in the midst of my slump, put it down. I do intend to get back to that hopefully this year. This book is You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. Again, this is like a mystery thriller, I believe. Grace Evans, an overworked New Yorker looking for total escape from her busy life, books an Airbnb on a ranch in the middle of Wyoming. When she arrives at the idyllic getaway, she's pleased to find that the owner is a handsome man with the name of Calvin Wells, and he's eager to introduce her to his easygoing way of life. But there are things Grace discovers that she's not too pleased about. A lack of cell phone service, a missing woman, and a feeling that something isn't right with the ranch. Despite her uneasiness, the two bond and start to fall for one another. However, as departure date nears, things change for the worse. What began as playful romance soon turns into a complicated web of lies. She grows wary of Calvin as his infatuation for her seems to have morphed into obsession. Calvin fears that she is hiding something from him, including her reason for staying at his ranch to begin with. Then I have Eruption by Michael Crichton and James Patterson. From what I understand, this is a book that Michael Crichton started writing, and then after he passed away, James Patterson finished. Passion project Michael Crichton, creator of Jurassic Park, had been pursuing for years ahead of his untimely passing in 2008. After discovering his notes and the partial manuscript, his wife hands it over to James Patterson. So I really don't know much about this. This was a gift, and I know that it takes place in Hawaii and that volcano in Hawaii erupts. That's really all I know about it. Then I have Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. Erin hasn't been able to set a single boundary with her charismatic but reckless college ex-boyfriend Silas. When he asks her to bail him out of rehab again, she knows she needs to cut him off, but days after he gets out, Silas turns up dead of an overdose in their hometown of Richmond, Virginia, and Erin's world falls apart. Then a friend tells her about Ghost, a new drug that allows users to see the dead. Want to get haunted? He asks. Grieving and desperate for closure with Silas, Erin agrees to a pill-popping seance, but the drug has unfathomable side effects, and once you take it, you can never go back. And then I have The End of the World as We Know It, New Tales of Stephen King's The Stand. This is a collection of short stories that spin off of the world in which The Stand took place. That's really all I know about it. Let's take a quick look. For the first time, Stephen King has fully authorized a return to the harrowing world of The Stand through this original short story anthology as presented by award-winning authors and editors Christopher Golden and Brian Keene, bringing together some of today's greatest and most visionary writers. Features remarkable all-new stories set during and after the events of The Stand. Brilliant, terrifying, and painfully human tales that will resonate with readers everywhere as an essential companion to the classic best-selling novel. So there's authors in here such as Catriona Ward, Richard Chismar, Alma Katsu, Chuck Wendig, Ronald Malfi, Josh Mallerman, S.A. Cosby, Tanariva Dew, Stephen Barnes, Paul Tremblay, Nat Cassidy, Carolyn Kepnes, Haley Piper, just to name a few. All right, we're getting down to it. Just a few more left. So these are going to be considered literary fiction. The Morning Star by Karl Ove Knausgaard. This is a very chunky book. One long night in August, Arn and Tove are staying with their children in their summer house in southern Norway, near their friend Egil. Catherine, a priest, is flying home from a Bible seminar questioning her marriage. Journalist Joel Steen is out drinking for the night, and his wife Turid, a nurse at a psychiatric care unit, is on a night shift when one of her patients escapes. Above them all, a huge star suddenly appears, blazing in the sky. It brings with it a mysterious sense of foreboding. Strange things start to happen under the star. Hundreds of crabs en masse on the road as armed Arn drives at night. Joe Steen receives a call about a death metal band found brutally murdered in a satanic ritual, Catherine conducts a funeral service for a man she met at the airport. It's all about life in all its mundanity and drama, the strangest that permeates our world, and the darkness in us all. I've heard really great things about this author. I've been meaning to pick him up for a while, so I have this one. And I also have this one, The Wolves of Eternity by Karl Ove Knausgaard. 1986, and a nuclear reactor has exploded in Chernobyl. Sievert returns home from military service to live with his mother and brother on the outskirts of a town in southern Norway. One night he dreams of his late father and can't shake him from his mind. Searching through his father's belongings for clues and connections, he finds a cache of letters that lead to the Soviet Union. In present-day Russia, Alvatina is trying to balance work and family. She has always sought the answers to life's big questions, but is preoccupied with the care of her young son. Her friend Vasilisa offers some nourishment. She's writing a book about an ancient feature of Russian culture, the belief in external life. Meanwhile, Alvatina is heading toward a meeting that will redraw the contours of her world. It's an intimate journey into the experiences of a half-brother and half-sister and their two different, yet deeply connected lives. The second novel in this series. So this is book 2 after The Morning Star. So I believe they're not necessarily like you have to read this one and then read this one. I think they kind of stand alone, but they are a part of a bigger series. Then I have Three Daughters of Eve, a novel by Elif Shafak. I read from Elif Shafak while I was studying literature for my bachelor's degree, and I just adore her writing. She uses really simple language, but she conveys so much with the words that she uses. I have another book by her that I've been meaning to read. It's something Istanbul, neither here nor there. This is her newer book. Peri, a married, wealthy Turkish woman, is on her way to a party at a mansion in Istanbul when a thief snatches her handbag. As she wrestles to get it back, a Polaroid of 3 young women and their university professor falls to the ground. A relic from the past, and a love Peri had tried to desperately forget. Three Daughters of Eve is set over an evening in contemporary Istanbul as Peri arrives at the party and navigates the tensions that simmer between East and West, religious and secular, rich and poor. Over the course of the dinner, terrorist attacks occur across the city. Competing in Peri's mind, however, are the memories invoked by her almost lost Polaroid of the time years earlier when she attended Oxford. As a young woman there, she had become friends with the charming, adventurous Shirin, a fully assimilated Iranian girl, and Mona, a devout Egyptian American. Their arguments about Islam and the feminism find focus in the charismatic but controversial Professor Azur, who taught divinity in unorthodox ways. As the terrorist attacks come ever closer, she is moved to recall the scandal that tore them apart. So I think this is what Elif Shafak does. She really tackles different cultural elements, different historical events that shaped our world today. She really loves to provide a wide variety of characters, and that kind of sounds that this is exactly what this is. So I'm really excited to get to that one. This one I actually borrowed from a friend that I work with. This is Peace Like a River by Leif Anger. I've been meaning to read this book for a long time. I've heard that it is exceptional and really moving. It is once a heroic quest, a tragedy, and a love story in which what could be unbelievable becomes extraordinary. He brings us 11-year-old Reuben Land, an asthmatic boy in the Midwest who has reason to believe in miracles. Along with his sister and father, Reuben finds himself on a cross-country search for his outlaw older brother who has been controversially charged with murder. Their journey unfolds like a revelation, and its conclusion shows how family, love, and faith can stand up to the most terrifying of enemies and the most tragic of fates. Published in 2001. Oh, okay. You'll see in a minute. Then we have The Safe Keep, a novel by Yael van der Wooden. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I am terrible at pronouncing names. Sorry. It is 15 years after the Second World War, and Isabel has built herself a solitary life of discipline and strict routine in her late mother's country home, with not a fork or a word out of place. But all is upended when her brother Louis delivers his graceless new girlfriend, Eva, at Isabel's doorstep. As a guest, they are to stay for the season. In the sweltering heat of summer, Isabel's desperate need for control reaches a boiling point, and what happens between the two women leads to a revelation that threatens all she has ever known. one of the most celebrated debuts in recent memory. It's like an exhilarating tale of twisted desire, histories and homes, and the legacy of one of the 20th century's greatest tragedies. Okay, so those 3 books that I talked about by Karl Ove Knausgaard. This is the third realm. I believe this is the 3rd book in that series. For several days, a strange and bright new star in the sky above Norway has sown unyielding sense of foreboding, of agitation, and of fear. Tove, a painter on holiday with her family, has spiraled into psychosis that stirs her into a flurry of unbridled creativity. Geir, a policeman who has been investigating a grisly triple murder, comes to a sinister revelation he must keep to himself. 19-year-old Line falls in love with the lead singer of a metal band and is lured into a secret and frightening world. In the third realm, Karl Ove Knausgaard returns to the spellbinding world of the Morning Star and the Wolves of Eternity, as a cast of new and familiar characters continue to reckon with the meaning of this star. What is haunting them and why? As supernatural forces collide with mundanities of the everyday, the threshold between life and death becomes diffuse. People are forced to live their lives as before while the world around them slowly changes in inexplicable ways. Piercing through human existence into the bestial and phantasmagorical, he flings open the gates to our most distressing neuroses and forces us to ask, what happens if dark forces in the world are set free? And lastly, we have Fallen City by Adrienne Young. I've read few of Adrienne Young's other books, and I really love her writing. She writes almost historical fiction, really great character-driven work. Let's see what this one is about. Luca Matthias has one purpose, to carry on the family name, maintaining its presence in the forum once his powerful and cruel uncle dies. But his novice ship with the city's philosopher places him in the middle of a catastrophe that will alter the destiny of his people. Maris Casperia was raised amid the strategic maneuvering of the Citadel's inner circle, and she knows what her future holds. A lifetime of service to a corrupt city. But her years of serving as a novice to the last priestess who possesses the stolen magic of the old war have made her envision a different kind of future for Isara. She meets Luca, a fated chain of events is set into motion that will divinely entangle their lives. A secret comes to light and throws the city into chaos. Luca and Maris hatch a plot to create a calculated alliance that could tip the seals of power. But when an execution forces Luca to become the symbol of rebellion, he and Maris are thrown into opposite sides of a holy war. As their fates diverge, they learn they are at the center of a story the gods are writing, and even if they can find their way back to each other, there may be nothing left. It sounds very different from the other books that she has written that I've read, which are Spells for Forgetting and The Unmaking of June Farrow. Those are the 2 that I've read. So those are the books that I've hauled. I am really excited to get to some of these. There are a few on here that I definitely have prioritized. Talk to me about the books that maybe you have hauled recently. If you have read any of these and if you have an opinion about them, please drop me a comment down below. What are some books that are on your radar that you hope to pick up? As of this moment, I have about 25 pages left of Shadows Upon Time by Christopher Ruocchio, and I will begin my wrap up of that. Until then, I think that covers it. I think that's it. So I will talk to you later. Bye.